We think we hold the board accountable for some of the suboptimal mistakes that have been made by the company, and we think that should change. We think these errors have led to massive underperformance relative to Walmart. This is from the period beginning from approximately when the recession began to the present, a 61 percentage points underperformance. The company blames this underperformance on the economy, but there's no reason why Target is Target is not Gucci, right? It's a business that should be able to do well, even in a difficult economic time, and we think this is a miss, and the credit card earning decline has contributed here, as well as negative same-store sales, which we point out the variance here. People are pretty, I'm sure, familiar with that chart. Earnings per share growth, the massive decline in earnings. EBIT margins. There's not been a lot of discussion about this, but I think it's worth taking a look. What we've done here is we've benchmarked Walmart's U.S. business, excluding Sam's Clubs. We're doing an apples-to-apples comparison with Target's retail operation. Walmart's had a very steady 7.3% EBIT or profit, pre-tax profit margin, whereas Target's margins have declined very dramatically. And you would say, okay, I would understand today while Walmart's margins are better than Target's. But how do we explain that during one of the great credit expansions, one of the boom times in our economy, that Target's margins were not meaningfully in excess of Walmart's margins? Again, it's just the U.S. business. It's an apples-to-apples comparison. Walmart has a much greater percentage of their business in, let me just go back to this for a second, in sort of commodity, non-discretionary type items. We think there's a significant opportunity on the operating performance side in terms of Target's business. Now, we found, I'm not a shareholder of Walmart, but we looked at Walmart's board. And what's interesting about Walmart's board is that Walmart has gone out to attract executives with relevant expertise who can bring value for shareholders. Walmart was criticized for many years for having a weak apparel offering. They went got Alan Questrom to join their board. Alan Questrom, former CEO of JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, Federated Department Stores, a legendary retail executive. He serves on the board. He can add meaningful value for shareholders. They have Roger Corbett, retired CEO of Woolworths, which is kind of the Target or Walmart equivalent in Australia. He serves on the board and can provide very relevant expertise. On the real estate side, they have Arne Sorensen from Marriott. I think he's an interesting choice because Marriott, in fact, a number of years ago, spun off its real estate in a new company called Host Marriott. Marriott knows how to think about what's the optimal way to own our real estate. So I think he brings meaningful value to Walmart, although Walmart does not nearly own a similar percentage of its stores than Target. While there's no credit card industry expert on Walmart's board, the company made the smart decision to exit that business or not even enter it for certain. They began a partnership with a bank early on in their life as a store. Insularity. If we look at the current board, there's you've got a board where if you think about I guess the way I think about it, you had a legendary CEO here who ran the company for many, many years. And over time, even Sam Walton had a board that was comprised largely of, again, well-meaning, good business people, but friends of Sam. And this board reminds me of a Friends of Bob Ulrich board. And what's missing are people that can challenge the CEO, the people that can add value to the CEO, people who contribute to creating strategic value in the company. So we think that's a key omission on the board. The board rejected us outright with no explanation, despite our positive relationship with the company and our major stake in the business. The continual re-election of new members without doing a proper search for potential new members. They ignored us with respect to credit risk. They wouldn't look at a broad set of alternatives for real estate, and they turned us down without explanation. And even when we proposed independent directors, they wouldn't even meet with them. If you look back to 1993, the grocery business was not a major part of the general merchandise and discounting business. Walmart was a third in terms of their market position in groceries. 15 years later, Walmart is extremely dominant in this business. And we think this may have been a miss on the part of the company. Why did they miss this? Well, they don't have a smart grocery retail executive on their board. That's certainly one explanation. What we're trying to do here is not take over Target, despite what you read in the media. Again, 8 of the 12 nominees will stay. We've got 5 seats up for election. We think this is an opportunity. We think if we can we didn't find a bunch of friends of Pershing. We went out to find the best people that we could find that we thought would add value to the company. I'm going to introduce you to them in a moment. So why don't we bring out our directors the nominees for shareholder choice,